Let's all look inside his room. It's Shit in John Wayne's Room.
Hey, welcome to Shit in John Wayne's Room. I'm John Wayne, non-extreme horror writer, author of Deadline, Tortured to Death, and many more. I also play in the punk rock band John Wayne is Dead. Welcome to this segment. Like I said before, people see me do filming in my room all the time in my office here, and they're like, what's that? What's this? What's that? Why is that there? Why do you have this? That's why I decided to do this segment where I just go to things in my room and say, hey, this is what this is about. Here's the story behind it. It's not just I got this, here you go. I tell you about it. I tell you the connection that I have to myself. And that's why we've been starting with the Guitar Edition. So welcome to Shit in John Wayne's Room Guitar Edition. Today, we're going to talk about one of my oldest guitars that I own, which is not saying too much, but it is my Gibson Les Paul Special. Ooh. This guitar was made in America in the Nashville Gibson plant on November 4th, 2002. This guitar weighs in at a cool 8 pounds. Solid piece of wood. The neck, of course, bolted on. I've given this a lot of love, as you can see. The finish on this is called Worn Ebony. This was something that they did when they released these guitars. They did Les Paul specials, and they also did SG specials as well during this year. And they gave them all these different worn finishes. Some of them weren't worn. Some of them you just got like a straight ebony. I like this because it's glossy, but not as glossy. It's got the wear marks on it, but I wore the shit out of it anyway. I'd only been playing Ibanez up until this point. I really wanted a Les Paul. For me, this was the gold standard at that time for just good guitars, quality guitars, Gibson. And this is not the only Gibson I own, but it was the first. Little interesting story about this guitar. Before I got this one, another model of Les Paul came out around the same time, maybe a year earlier or so, and it was called the Gibson Goth line. This was awesome. They did a Les Paul, an SG, and a Firebird, all goth models. Now, what that entailed was it was all black, of course, but it was matte finish, no shininess at all black. The fret markers were blood red, and then you had this portrait, right? Or you had a moon, crescent moon star in the 12th fret, all red as well. On the back here, they had this fucking crazy gothic looking portrait of Les Paul, so you've got like all this crazy shit on there. And I wanted one of those bad. So one day I went to Mars Music, defunct music store back in Houston. They had one. I'm just looking around. I'm not really looking to buy anything that day, but I'm playing guitar. You know how it gets. You know how it goes. You start playing something. You're like, oh, I like this. This is cool. You know what? And then you're looking at the price tag. And you're like, maybe I could swing this. You know what? Maybe if I did this, I could be. And you play that game in your head, which is exactly what I did. However, my game ended in financing. That's right. The guy came over and was like, yeah, you can finance that. We offer financing right here in the store, a good percentage and all that stuff. And I'm like, yes, that sounds very good. You know what? I think I will take this. And you know what? I will take you up on the financing. Not that I need it, but let me just do it for you. So that's what I did. I financed the guitar. It was $1,500. Of course, I was broke as shit at the time in college. Still broke as shit now. But didn't have really the money to pay for that guitar. Put it on a credit card, and I felt guilty from the moment I walked out of the store with that guitar. I wish I didn't. I wish that I could say I didn't give a fuck. I played it. I loved it. I didn't care. I did. For whatever reason back then, I was like, man, that's something I should not have done. So I went home with that guitar. I kept it for 4 days, I think. And then I just ended up taking it back and getting a refund and canceling that card and all that stuff. And it sucked because it took away that guy's commission, and it sucked. And I hated the fact that I had to do that. So maybe a year goes by or so, and my girlfriend at the time, very nice, this was my Christmas present from her. That's how I got this guitar. And I have kept it ever since. I love this guitar. Now, talking about the pickups, I did some modification on my Gibson Les Paul Special. Here, as far as the pickups go, you can see those are not your standard pickups that I was talking about earlier. These are EMG pickups. And more than that, this is the 85-81 setup, otherwise known as the Zakk Wylde combination. So like I was saying, you know, back at the time when I got this guitar, the kind of bands I was playing in, metal, the things that were popular at the time, and at the time, this pickup combination was the shit. If you were gonna play metal, you're gonna play hard rock, you had to put these pickups in your fucking guitar, and you better do it quick. I loved them. I loved the sound that they made. I loved their tone. So once I got the guitar, and I barely had this for a couple days before I took it down to my local music store, bought the EMG 85, the 81. That's how you put them in, like that. And I had those put in immediately. Now these are active pickups, so that means there's a little bit of wiring that has to be done, and you have to make sure that you change the battery, which goes back in that little place right there. Because if you don't, you're gonna go to play and it's gonna not work. Because active versus passive means power versus not powered. So I love this guitar, Gibson Les Paul Special, American made. I played this in, let's see, when I was in Taint for a little bit. I played this in Harem Festival for a little bit before I got a Firebird. And I played this in Letters to Voltron until I got a different guitar, a Charvel, which I had to part with, and I miss it so much. But anyway, that was my Les Paul Special Gibson American made, the first real good guitar that I ever owned. Hey, so thanks again for joining me for this edition of Shit in John Wayne's Room, the Guitar Chronicles, and we will see you next time.